Hey, everybody. It is Brita here for the Happier Attorney on a very hot summer day. And I wanted to do a video about the math of learning flat fees. This is based on a call that I recently had with an attorney. We are going to call her Betty. Okay. Betty practices in a rural town in a uh, state that does not have a great economy. And I hear that a lot with attorneys who practice in rural areas. Will flat fees work? Yes, they will work for you. You're not going to charge what somebody in Manhattan would charge, but absolutely they will work for you. It doesn't matter where you are. So Betty has a small firm, but she has 4 other associates working for her, and she has 6 support staff. And they're averaging billing at about $160 an hour. Okay. The issue, why she wants to change to flat fees, is they are having a hard time collecting, and they have 2 staff members who their full-time position is replenishing funds when the clients run out of the deposit, and working on collections. 2 full-time staff members. That's all they do. And it's a constant drain on the firm, this continual issue, and an energy vampire, as I call it. And they're tired of getting punished for being efficient. Their staff is working incredibly hard. The attorneys are all working 70 plus hours a week. And Betty understands that that's not sustainable. It's not what she wants. So the goal is to use flat fees in about 80% of their practice. The other 20% is government work, which if flat fees work, they might not even need that. Okay. But Betty's scared. Betty's scared to spend the money to learn flat fees. Okay. Here's what you can take from this. Anytime you learn a new skill, there's going to be a cost. And what you have to do when you are evaluating that cost is also look at what the cost is to not learn that skill. What is the cost to keep doing what you're doing? Because otherwise, you're not comparing accurately. You're not comparing reality, all right? And there's always going to be a cost to keep doing what you're doing or change what you're doing. So here's, if Betty wants to learn flat fees, here are the 2 options. One is to DIY it, which she's already kind of played with. Here's what that entails. It entails adding about 10 hours a week to learning, to reading the books, to watching these videos, to overthink it, do the research, try and do the things. About 10 hours a week. That's on top of the 70 that she's already working. Okay? When she's already burned out. It's also going to take her, even if she does that religiously, 10 hours a week, it's going to take her about 6 months if she does it and she doesn't quit, which most attorneys are going to quit before then. Okay? And that's 6 more months of, as one attorney called it, billing and begging. 6 more months of now working 80 hours a week and continuing to have this energy vampire that she's having. Here's the real rub. It takes 2-4 years before all of the issues present themselves to work out when you are learning flat fees, if you don't learn it, if you are doing it on your own. Because all of the problems, all of the issues aren't just going to come up at one time. They're going to happen situationally. And so it's going to take years for you to work out the bugs. And working out the bugs is really expensive. Per bug, per case, it can be $10,000. It can be $20,000. It can be an ethics issue. It can be a big deal. Those mistakes are really costly. And then the mistakes that other attorneys have already made that you don't need to make if you learn how to do it properly, okay? Here's the additional cost that Betty's not even thinking about. In that time that she's learning, 2 to 4 years, she has these 4 other attorneys working for her who are burned out, who are tired of working 70 hours a week, because that's not, a sustainable thing. And if one of those people leaves in the next 2 to 4 years, the turnover cost to her, depending on who you talk to, but based on ladderlink.com, is between $200,000 and $400,000 by the time it's said and done. Turnover cost is huge, huge. But let's even say it costs $100,000. That cost is real cost. Forget the opportunity cost that you've just lost. After all of that, let's say 2 years go by, 4 years go by, and Betty gets the knowledge of flat fees down. Here's the real rub. She still only has about 10% of what it takes to use flat fees really well, because the 90% is mindset, is changing how we think as an attorney, which, quite frankly, it's not a knowledge thing, and it takes repetition. You're changing how you think, which is not a small task. And most attorneys, this is what they have a hard time with. It's not the knowledge. It's not a fee agreement. It's not even what to charge. It's changing how you think about your value, so you're not just basing it on your time. And so if Betty doesn't get that mindset shift, she's still only going to be using flat fees to about 10% of their capacity. She is still leaving 90% on the table. But she has the pride of knowing she did it herself, and she saved money up front. And when I talk to attorneys, quite frankly, that pride is a big deal. They think, well, I'm smart. I should be able to figure this out myself. I shouldn't need help. Get over yourself, okay? It is not that I'm smarter than you are. It's that I've done it. I've walked the walk. I've taken the hike. Use whatever analogy you want. I've made all of the mistakes so you don't have to. Okay? The alternative is that she can fast track that learning and get the mindset that is necessary to use flat fees really well. And that's only going to happen if someone teaches it to her. Whether it's me or somebody else is irrelevant. And yes, the cost of learning a new skill can be scary and can turn people off. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. But when you think about it as what is the cost to keep doing what you're doing and put your ego aside for a minute and get some support, you will see that the cost to do it yourself is immeasurable. It's just like anything else. Okay, fine. Maybe you can roof your house yourself and save some money if you want to. No. Is it a good use of your time? No. Are they going to do a better job than you are? Yes. Oh, and when you screw it up, you're going to pay twice as much to have somebody come in and do it again. Put your ego to the side, okay? Let's look at, for 1 minute, if Betty instead says, you know what, I'm going to pay Brita, I'm going to pay somebody else and learn how to do this. She will be, if she does the work, she will be up and running, I'm not kidding, with flat fees within 1 to 6 months, depending on how fast she goes. I'm not kidding. I have had attorneys start with me on Friday and start with flat fees the next week. I'm not kidding. Not pretty. It's kind of rough, but they do it. Other people take a little bit longer. That's up to you. But she can be up and running in less than a month. Those 2 staff members that get paid for begging for money, Now one of them's doing less and less. Within a year, they shouldn't be begging at all. There should be 0 accounts receivable. And that's even on the old cases. 0. So now those 2 staff members, instead of getting paid, let's say, $100,000 between the 2 of them to beg for money, now they can do marketing. They can do client service. They can do things that is actually going to generate more income. They are now a income producer rather than just an expense to try and collect the fees that you've already earned. That alone would pay for the cost of this program in less than a month. I'm not kidding. Also, the program pays for itself not only through your staff, but with what you are not having to try and collect. You are getting paid upfront for the work that you're doing. There is no AR. Again, that's real money that depending on your facts would pay between $9,000 and $25,000 for the program. Within a month or 2? When you look at it, we are now between staff, between AR for this particular attorney. Now we're looking at like $200,000 a year ahead of the game. When you're talking about an ROI, are you ready for this? That's 700%. Now, if you had another investment, what's a good rate of return for an investment, a financial investment? If somebody was getting 10, 12%, you'd be like, oh my gosh, who's your financial advisor? I need to put my money over there. And you'd be throwing as much money as you possibly could to them, right? But we don't think of ourselves and our knowledge in the same way. But that's what we're talking. You spent, and given her number of employees, she has 5 attorneys. So the cost, at least of my program, for her would have been $25,000. In a year, she's going to get back over 200. And we're not even talking about getting paid for your judgment. We're not even talking about that. Just on the money that she's actually saving. She's going to get back to over 200. That's a 700% ROI. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. And sometimes it's so crazy that our mind can't even absorb it. It's too good to be true. It's not. It's not. It's you are actually collecting what you're making. You are not paying a staff person to collect the money you've already earned because you're getting it up front. We're not even going to get into the fact that your staff members now are not having to work 70 hours a week. Your associate attorneys are not working 70 hours a week. You're not working 70 hours a week. Let's just talk about the one aspect of the financial savings. So when I hear people talking about this program or that program being expensive, whether it be mine or, marketing program or other business coaching or whatever, coaching is not cheap. Believe me, I get it. I walk the walk. I spend a lot of money on coaching myself. I get it. And you know what? Some of that, the ROI has not been great, but you keep going. But here's what I will promise you. These numbers are real. When you do the work, you will be amazed at the return that you get from using flat fees. And I'm happy to go over those numbers, your numbers, with you specifically. But get your ego out of it. Don't think that, oh, I'm smart, I should be able to do this yourself. You can. It's not a good use of your time. It's just like your clients who say, I can represent myself. Is that even if it wasn't another attorney, what would you say to another attorney that came in and said, you know, you're too expensive. I want to do it myself. I'll just do it myself. Is that a good decision? No. For this, a lot of the same reasons as this is not a good decision. So if you are interested in learning flat fees and you want to fast track it, you're an action taker, you don't want to mess around with year after year after year, in the comments is a link to book an assessment call with me. Talk to me about flat fees. If they're a great solution for you, wonderful. If they're not, at least you'll know. Through the assessment call, you'll at least know, they're not for me. Or they are, whatever. But look at the cost of what you're doing. What is it actually costing you now? Financially, costing you time, costing you health? Is what you're doing now sustainable? There's not a free answer. What you're doing now is costing you. To learn something different is going to cost you. What makes more sense? But free ain't on the menu. Even if you do it yourself, that's probably going to be the most expensive option. So take care. Thanks for listening. Subscribe, write in the comments, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.